Hello, welcome to a short video just to support anybody that's not got a multi-function steering wheel or no multi-function steering wheel, which would be MFSW. How many times I get asked, what does MFSW mean? It's in the description, but yeah, if you haven't got controls on the right hand side of your steering wheel that consist of up, down, left, right, and OK in the middle, then you're probably going to want one of these. So this is just a basic up, down, left, right, enter. It just sends an RF signal to the Digidash within the vehicle, and we plug in a small RF receiver that we will fit to the board. And I just thought, wouldn't it be handy if, rather than cracking open your brand new unit, upsetting all of your new packaging prior to sending this to you, if I could just make a very short 2-minute video. We'll see, Mr. Waffles, whether or not you guys can fit this yourself, because it's so easy. Right, so if we just unpack a brand new T6 that's about to wing its way today to a very excited customer. I know he's excited because he's already sent me, he knows who he is, he's already sent me photographs of his cluster all taken apart, circuit board all stripped, cut out, already made for the plugs to go in. So we've got the digital unit here. I'll just swivel my fancy camera, ask my professional cameraman to just adjust the image for me. So always protect the fascia. You know, this is the only thing you're going to see when this is all done and gone. So don't get any scratches on this. You're going to stare at them. You just want to see that lovely screen. Right, so quickly whip the screws out of this. Take care with these screws not to over tighten them when they go back in again. Use a small screwdriver. Please don't put Torx into impact drivers, and you know it's not worth the shortcut. Just finger tight is fine. The screen surfaces are quite sensitive to over tightening, so if you do go in and do anything with your screen, I am aware of somebody who put a matte screen protector, sort of like an anti-glare surface, which, whilst I think is a good idea, a nice idea, I don't believe the manufacturer's left enough tolerance to be trying to squeeze anything in between the trims and the screen, and that did result in some surface pressure on the screen, which creates a bit of light bleed, a little bit of yellowing around the edges. You may also experience that if you put the unit in too tight, which could be done by trapping a cable behind it, could be done by just having something not quite home. So when you put it in, obviously make sure that those bottom screws are, you know, really flush with the mounts once they go in, and that everything looks like it's square and centered. And reach over the back if you can, and just lift the cables. Make sure there's nothing sitting behind this unit. Yeah, that's my best advice at the moment. So what I'm going to show you is how to install the RF receiver end into your unit. So we don't have to be quite so precious about this, but just remember you've got a ribbon cable in there. When opening anything like this, just take real good care of what direction things want to go in, and make sure that ribbon cable lie is quite natural and not being stressed unduly. So with that in mind, I could raise that up and give you guys a better view. I'll just bring you in and down. Right, so in here we've got the board. Now, if you've been talking to me recently about integrations and wanting to run a permanent HDMI feed to this, because the new units have re-enabled the USB port on the back that they had in the early days but had some glitches, so they moved to a temporary board which used to be mounted here, which then got replaced for a while by a mirrorcast screen, which not many people were using. So I tended to be swapping it back over to the HDMI and getting a feed to it. The HDMI board is the small square board that some people just left in a packet and didn't do anything with, but you could swap it back over, you could get a live feed, and you could start integrating some quite nifty things. If you've watched my recent videos, you'll understand why. The other thing to consider, if you're going to have a HDMI feed into this, I would say whip the internal speaker out. It's not great. If you're going to use this as a direct CarPlay and just use it for navigation, say, great. But let's face it, the majority of us, even in that scenario, are going to be pulling that over to the head unit and all that audio gone. Now, the only thing this speaker does, the only other thing this speaker does that you might consider useful is the boot sound. And if you've all plugged this in and experienced that boot sound, as magical as it is, it's not for me. So you'll probably be turning it off. Take out the speaker and you won't ever have to do that again, which you will on firmwares ordinarily. Right, so for this customer, I know what his plan is. We had a really good long conversation this afternoon about integrations and about what he wants to do with this. So I am going to very carefully remove the 4 screws required to just lift this board, because you can see just how close, if I zoom in a little bit on this, you can see just how close the the plug is to the edge of the casing, and that makes things a little bit trickier for us to get this plug off on these boards. Previous revisions of the board, we had about 1 centimetre on the end there, and it was a bit easier. But I've undone these 2 screws at this end. If you just loosen these just so that you can lift the board 5mm on the other end, it'll make your life just a little bit easier. Always looking for a time saver. He said it has actually got locators. I forgot about this. It's got a couple of locators next to the screw heads, so it's not gonna pivot nicely on those. There we go. So you can see I'm just lifting it carefully here, and I can just pop that, give it a little wiggle. Careful not to stress the board. Pop that little thing off there. You can see the remnants of the old ribbon receiver here, where they used to have a cable coming over onto this ancillary board. That would have been a HDMI with this cable guide snapped off going through there, or it would have been a mirror board with an aerial on it. So if you're going back in here and you're fitting a HDMI, then that's what you want to be doing. You want to be unclipping the ribbon cable off this end, putting the HDMI, poking it through that hole, snapping off the guide, yeah, you can join the revolution of connected devices. Right, so screws back into that board. Apologies, my videos are always in real time. Maybe one day I'll do some whilst I screw these back in, but I normally find something to gab about, as anyone who's met me will tell you. So with that disconnected, totally up to you. Leave it in, take it out. It's not doing any harm, is it? I'm going to leave it in. So that's disconnected. HDMI won't pass through any audio anymore. We're not going to be screen mirroring to it. We're going to use the dedicated HDMI on the back of this board for an input. I am supplying this customer with the correct cable for what he's going to have on the other end to feed it from his head unit. So we haven't got any problems there. Anyway, the purpose of this video was all about the remote control and this. So this has 3 compatible sockets. And if you just tilt the board this way, I mean, I could have shown you more by taking it out fully, but there's, just to prove that you don't have to take the board out, there's 1, 2 and 3. So it's the one that's closest to the speaker plug, and you simply take this smooth edge up and then just feel behind there, just curve the cables just so you can get a nice turn on it, and just guide it in. It's as much fun as doing a HDMI behind a monitor when you don't know which way around it goes, but I've told you it's smooth on top, makes life easier. And we just feed that in. Once you get it lined up, it'll just pop in with a very light sort of press. And then we've got the dangly soldered RF receiver, which is very low power and very reliable over short distance. And incidentally, it'd be compatible with any number of these. This doesn't currently have a battery in it, but I will be putting one in before I send it. But if you turn it on by pressing any of the buttons, it actually lights up a kind of funky blue colour. So if you were using it in the night, great, it would be visible. Or if you're just like me and have spent most of this winter sat in your van playing with settings and audio units, etc. A small bit of tape on here. I'm using some little tape tabs that I've got. You should really, if you're doing stuff like this, I'd recommend buying yourself a roll of Tessa tape. It's amazing stuff. It's not very sticky until it sticks to itself, and then it's crazy. But yeah, a quick strip of that in there works wonders. And actually, having a roll of that to hand, you can also make a really nice tidy. I'm going to put a little strip underneath it as well, just so it can't ever be a vibration, a rattle. I'm the only person that drives a vehicle around with full-time drawers full of cutlery and pots and pans, and then chases around the entire vehicle, consistently trying to stop things from rattling and banging and bumping and all that. Right, back to full view. Okay, so that's done, that's in. Hopefully you can see from here that we've now got that plugged in. It's plugged into the nearest connector. Hopefully you can just see from that angle. I could, so it's plugged in nearest the end where the speaker has just been unplugged. I recommend doing that to anybody who doesn't like tinny little sounds, and then obviously just fit the back on it again. And this unit will be going in the post this evening. So let me make sure all these 4 screws are back on again. So after this, with that remote control, which at some point somebody thought this little invisible brass strap would be really handy, because it's actually got a sort of curvature to it, and it's obviously designed to attach to the inside of a steering wheel and have that stretch around and attached. So I guess if you were function before form, you could do that. But I think most people are going to use it for their initial programming, get to the screen that they like, and chuck it in a cubby or a box. And don't worry if you ever lose it. If you do ever lose it, I could supply you with a replacement. Any replacement would be compatible with the RF receiver. It's a standard RF signal across all controllers and receivers. Yeah, need to make sure I don't sell too many of these things that bump into each other at the same shows. Look, you're not going to be using that often. Let's go. So that's all done. Back in the bag. This will be the last time I fit one for any of my next day posted units, because I'm going to send you a link to this video when you buy the remote from my site as an option. So yeah, thank you very much, and I'll give you another 2-minute video that might be just under 15 minutes by the time I've finished giving you all the other information. Thank you. Take care. Bye.